Game assets are everything that goes into a game. This can include 3D models, sprites, sound effects, music, everything that makes up a game, like boxes and boats and everything like that. With the lathe modifiers, it determines the number of degrees that the object is spun around on the axis. You can set keyframes for the degrees to animate circular growth of the lathed object. The lathe axis auto-sizes itself to the height of the shape being a lathe. Then this will be shown in the rest of the video later on. With the edit poly modifier, this extends the selected polygon. By doing this, it expands the object as it is in the scene. Polygons around the edge of the object remain stationary. UVW map modifier. By applying mapping coordinates to an object, the map modifier controls how many bitmaps are projected on the screen onto the object. The coordinate system is similar to the XYZ coordinate system. The U and the V axis of the bitmap correspond to the X and Y axis. W axis, which corresponds to the Z axis, is generally only used for procedural mapping. A bitmap's coordinate system can be switched in the material editor to VW or WU, in which case the bitmap is rotated and projected so that it is perpendicular to the surface. The ignore backfacing feature ignores any elements that are underneath the surface that you are selecting. This feature can be found in the editable poly section of any object labeled ignore backfacing. You're able to use the function tool when you select more than one edit poly modes. So when you select edge mode, you can now click ignore backfacing and make a selection over some of these edges. For manipulating edges with polygons, vertices and spleens, with the insert vertex, this lets you subdivide polygons manually. Applies to polygons even if at the element sub-object level. After turning on insert vertex, click the polygon to add the vertex at that location. You can continue to subdividing polygons as long as the command is active. To stop inserting vertices, right click on the viewport or click the vertices again to turn it off, which stops it. With the Bezier, a segment of an editable spleen that is vertices set to Bezier or Bezier corner is considered a Bezier curve. Bezier curves can be defined by many vertices. Each is controlled by 2 points that control the endpoint tangent vectors. For compound objects, there's a few operations that you can do. The two that I'm going to show later in the video are Boolean compound object through Boolean operations and the loft compound object with use of spleens, which I'll also show right after I've shown that later on in the video. Applying a material overrides any previous material assignment the order might have had previously. You can apply only one material to an object. To overcome this restriction, use a multi-sub-object material. You can apply the same material to multiple objects in the scene. Textures to bitmaps. To convert procedural textures like cellular or noise to bitmap images, open either the slate or the compact material editor, then go to the material editor's top bar menu, pick utilities and render map. From the render map menu, adjust the settings for a single frame or active time segment. Pick the final output dimensions, then click on the files to save your image to the desired folder and file format. Then click render. 3dsMax will bake the existing procedural texture into bitmaps, so you can then use those images to replace the original procedural texture when exporting to FBX. Exporting models ready for import into a game engine, preferably Unity. The game exporter provides a streamlined workflow to export models and animation clips in FBX format to your game engine. The game exporter is specifically targeted for game users to export game assets efficiently. The small number of settings that you export assets without needing to understand or change too many settings. You can save the settings quickly, export it, and it exports quickly in the future. The lathe modifier is a very helpful tool in game asset development as it creates a 3D image from a spleen which is 2D. This saves you a lot of time as the lathe modifier builds the rest of the image for you once you rotate the axis on the image. You can use this to create objects that have detail and pivots that go all around the object. A good example of this would be a chess piece or a barrel. On the screen now is me showing you how to get the lathe setting up after making a spleen. The Edit Poly modifier for 3dsMax can be useful when utilized properly. The Edit Poly modifier is a non-destructive way to edit a shape in 3dMax. Toggling visibility with this tool can help you see what's on the edges of shapes that you've modified previously. This is helpful if you want to separate the shape in the future, or you want to see what it's like after it's been edited. UVW map modifier is the simplest way to correctly map your object. It's important to do this so you can apply textures to your object and make it look better for your game without stretching out the texture or the object that you're applying the texture to. By default, when you make a selection, back faces will be included. When you want to ignore the back faces in the Edit Poly modifier, click on Ignore Back Facing so the option is ticked. This is useful because now when you make your selection, anything that is not visible will not be selected. Vertices are useful as you can combine two shapes into one and make it look smooth and professional. This is done under the Target World section of the vertices. It helps you edit shapes that you've already made. Bezier Curve lets you edit the spleen so you can give your game object a curve instead of being a straight line. This can help create spherical objects for your game. Boolean commands help you to create indentations in an object. This can help create detail in the object you've made. Attaching materials makes the game object that you've created look good instead of being a boring blank game object. This makes the object more professional and appealing to the viewer or the person who will be playing the game that your assets are in. It'll overall make everything that you've created look a ton better. Using a bitmap texture allows you to have more detail for the texture that you apply into a game object. This can make a square box look like a house with windows and a door look a lot better than just a grey box. It makes everything look a lot more professional. Exporting models into the game engine is important as it allows you to put good looking assets into your game. The game exporter in 3dsMax is targeted for game users to export game assets more efficiently at a faster speed than other asset creation. It's sped up by saving the export settings when you export an object into a game engine such as Unity.